welcome to the Engage for More podcast. We're so excited that you're joining us today. We exist to encourage you to engage and experience the more that Jesus came to offer you. My name is Pam Pegram, and I'm hanging out with my friends.
Hi, I'm Gwen Neal.
And I'm Kim Ball.
And we are starting today, episode number 153. And we're just going to talk about what Pastor Jonathan came and talked about, because we think your mind's probably been reeling all week long. If you haven't listened to episode number 152, just pause this one, hop back, and listen to 152, because we had a man on the podcast, and he talked about how to deal with conflict.
Yeah.
It was very interesting.
Especially from a male perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he talked about the different ways that people handle conflict, and he talked about explosion.
Yes.
Or the boil over, where you just simmer and simmer and simmer and
And
simmer
it builds
and simmer,
up and then
you
goes,
just like,
woo! Yeah.
Yeah, the lid blows. He talked about avoidance,
Yes.
which is Kim.
Yes, it's me. Yes, it is. I like to avoid it at all possible. Yeah.
Yes. He talked about denial, and then he talked about manipulation. And so it was just very interesting
It was,
to think through that.
Yeah.
And he started with that conflict isn't necessarily bad.
Right.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, because there's growth happens. There's the opportunity to build upon and become better with conflict.
Yeah, and you saying that makes me think there's somebody right now who needs to hear that. Like every time somebody tries to talk to you about something, you're so frustrated and discouraged because you see it as negative, and you see it as wrong, and you see it as attack, and you see it as, them coming against you, and it's not.
That's right.
It's not a bad thing. It's just we just have to work through conflict all the time.
Right,
you know?
And we come out on the other side and it's better. And we can even look at it as a test sometimes. You take the test and you see areas that you need a little bit more work in areas that you excel.
Yeah.
And so the things that you excel, you can start practicing them, and the things that you need more work on, then you study more.
Yeah.
Yes, that's so good. And I think that sometimes the conflict brings something up that you're not even aware that you do. Like you're not even aware that there's this issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't know I furrowed my brow until somebody was offended by it.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, why are you looking at me like that? And I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so sorry. I'm just thinking. I'm just processing what you're saying. I just need Botox. Okay, forgive me. But both of my parents furrow their brow, and even my grandchildren, I'm already seeing them furrow. And I'm like, y'all are going to have those wrinkles, you know. But it's just a family thing, you know.
Yeah. I love what you said. One of the things that you said in the last podcast about when you have something and somebody's approached you, and you need just a second to process before you just jump and react, and just saying, I'd love to talk about that. Can you give me 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, that's I've just learned the past couple years how to set boundaries. And I used to think that boundaries were to punish somebody. Like, if you're going to act like that, then I'm going to drop this wall. That is not what a boundary's for. I was just totally wrong. What that is to protect me. Like, I'm a daughter of the King. I am to act as a daughter of the King. I'm to honor God in my behavior. But if I don't set a boundary, I'm ultimately not going to honor him, because, like, if you're yelling at me, I can only listen to you yell at me for so long until I'm going to yell back, right? Like, there's just no way around that. I'm going to yell back. And so if you're really mad at me and come at me really hard, then I'm just going to say, hey,
Yeah.
I want to have the conversation. See, I laughed. It's just a natural thing. I laugh every time.
Yeah.
I want to have this conversation, but let me go grab a cup of coffee. I'll meet you in your office in 20 minutes and we'll talk about it.
But what I love about that is it not only protects you, but I think it gives that party a second just to think about, okay, I was just going to clobber that person.
Right.
You know, I was just going to, but gives them a chance to either simmer down or rethink.
Yes.
And I love that. That was a huge aha moment for me. Yeah.
And then, like, if they continue, like, they're just so mad, they continue, and that just makes them madder. You know what I mean? Then you just have to say, hey, I'm gonna walk away.
Yeah. And when you feel like you can have a decent conversation with me, please come back.
Let me know. Yeah. And like, you just have to separate yourself from that situation. Yeah. Otherwise, you're gonna mess up, and you're gonna say some things you're gonna regret. You're gonna act and other people are watching you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's just setting some boundaries, just so that you don't do what you do not want to do. Right. And so I think that's super important. And taking that pause. And even that laugh I do, that just little, just it gives me that second to stop myself.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Because he talked about the downward spiral.
Yes, that was so good.
That was good. And I was picturing like a tornado.
Yeah.
And, the funnel part as it, goes downward. But when you take that pause, you give yourself a time to reset, a moment.
Yes.
You take that moment to reset.
That was so good, because that made me really think, like, how, what he explained too was like, if you said something to me and you didn't mean anything,
right?
But I got offended and said something snippy back, then you said something snippy back.
Yeah.
Here we go. Like, we are spiraling down, down, down.
Right. How do you recover from that?
Yeah. I thought that was good.
That was good. That was good.
And I like that same token of the downward spiral is when you're helping other people, like friends work through conflict. So somebody's called you and entrusted you with, what do I do here? And instead of saying, well, they shouldn't have done this, and doing that downward spiral, where you just pause and just say, okay, let's think what those people were going through. I just had the same instance this week where a friend called me for advice about what to do. And I was thinking, they were in a situation, these people came at her, but they were in a situation where everything was falling apart in their plan to run whatever it is. And it was falling apart, and they had to do plan B's and C's. And so they were stressed, and they took the time to take it out on her. And so instead of being like, well, that was unfounded and that was ridiculous, you just stop for a minute and pause and help them to see what might have happened. Right. And then, because we're not in it, just leading them to saying, I think you need to go to that person.
Yes.
Wait a while so you're not heated, but go to that person and just make sure you understand what they meant when they said those hurtful words to you. And so I think it's a lot about our own conflict, but helping others through healthy conflict as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. That's good.
Yeah. And I think we create the conflict so many times because we jump to assumptions.
Yeah, sure.
Or we assign me. Oh, one time this girl came, y'all, to Bible study. It was so funny. She came one time to Bible study. Okay. And we were having this conversation, and she said this profound thing. And then she never came to Bible study ever again. And the whole time we were all like, she never came back. She was but anyway, we were all talking, and suddenly she said, never assign meaning to things that have none. Boom. I mean, that is so powerful.
Yeah.
Never assign meaning to things that have none.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes. So sometimes when somebody says something, it means nothing. Like you're going, well, she must think or she must feel, but no, she doesn't.
No.
You're just assigning meaning to it, and she meant nothing.
Yeah.
She was just being fun, you know, and suddenly you're overthinking it and turning it into a negative. It had no meaning whatsoever.
Oh my gosh, yes, I see that.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
But don't you have to clarify?
No.
You don't have to clarify with that person to just make sure. No. Okay.
I mean,
you just forget about it.
If she's happy, go, and she goes on with life, like, why would you need to clarify it?
Okay. But if it okay, I was thinking if it had offended you, or if you had question about it.
Well,
Okay.
I think it's good just to check yourself and to go, did she really mean? I mean, if she just says something,
Yeah.
and then goes on, and she's happy and not mad at you.
Yeah.
Why do you need to go stir up that drama?
I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm
Absolutely.
saying?
I got it.
And make something an issue that's not one at all.
And that goes
You know?
back to being offended. And
Yes.
you brought up the bait of Satan in our last podcast, and just being easily offended. And so Jonathan has a remedy for that.
Mm-hmm.
Develop a thick skin. And what did he say? A kind heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a kind
Yes.
heart. Yeah.
I love that. I heard John Maxwell say one time, be hard to offend, that leaders should be hard to offend. And when I heard him talking about that, I'm like, okay, that is so true. Like, we should be hard to offend. Believers should be hard to offend.
That's
Like, y'all,
right.
Jesus was hard to offend. If they talk smack about anybody, they talk smack about Jesus. And he loved them anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and so we can choose to just not get offended.
That's right.
To just let it go, not be offended. It's just okay. It doesn't matter what other people think about us, really.
At all.
All that matters is what God thinks of us, and that he loves us, and that we are honoring him. And so we can be hard to offend, and choose that. And we talked about this last night at Bible study too, and they were saying, but it's so hard, and I try and all that. And I'm like, but it's a decision.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
It is. It's a choice, and we can decide that right now today.
We can.
So you can decide as you're driving in your car, or as you're out and about for a walk, or as you're sitting and watching us on YouTube, you can just go, you know what? I'm going to stop being offended.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop. And really, most of the time, the things that offend us, it really wasn't about us at all. It was about them, like what you were saying. They're having a bad day.
Yeah.
They're going through a hard time. Something's falling apart in their life. And so it's not
somebody
even about
caught them.
us.
No, it's not.
You know, and we're over here offended.
That's right. It is not worth the time.
Yes.
It is not worth the time. Such a good conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
That we were having on conflict, dealing with conflict. Love it.
And I think a lot of it's all in our mind. What are we entertaining? Those thoughts that feed on negativity. And the more we think the negative thoughts, the more we think negatively.
Yeah.
And then it impacts our demeanor.
Yes, for sure.
And you can always tell over time, maybe not in the first 5 minutes, but eventually you know what a person's thinking, what their automatic setting is on, because it's going to come out in their words. Are they the negative Nancy's? Is that? Did you used to say that?
Maybe, I don't
Negative
know.
Nancy's, yeah. We'll never make it.
Yeah.
From Gulliver's Travelers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so when we take offense, when there's conflict, what are we replaying in our mind?
Yeah.
Is it truth?
Right. And we're not taking every thought captive, and we're
That's
not
right.
thinking on things that are good and honorable and praiseworthy and all that, right? So we're being disobedient.
Yep.
So let's just wrap this up, and let's talk about for just a second, because I know every woman has experienced, and especially those of you who are just starting your walk with the Lord and you're growing to know him more, we've all experienced a falling away of friendships, and we also probably have all experienced a close friendship that ended and left us just heartbroken. And so can we just touch on that, because I think it's important to know that you're not the only one.
Right.
You're not the only one who's been through that. I know the falling away begins to happen, right? When you start wanting to walk in obedience to the Lord.
Yeah.
And so you're not being judgmental, but you just don't want to gossip, because the Bible says, there is life and death in the tongue, and do not gossip, and all these things in Proverbs. And so you're trying to obey the word and not gossip.
Yeah.
But now that makes the people who want to gossip uncomfortable.
Right.
Because you won't gossip with them. And so maybe they don't invite you to lunch next time.
Yeah.
And it's not that you did anything wrong, but it's just that you're making them uncomfortable, right?
Right.
I remember, y'all, when I had lunch with a friend, and when I had just wrapped up writing my book. And so I hadn't seen her in a while. And so we got there, and I was so excited to see her. I love her so much. And it was just so fun to connect. And we sat there for 3 hours, talking. And in that, she said, so what's new? Like, what have you been up to? And so I told her about what God was doing in my life, and that, this thing had dropped in my spirit, and it was so crazy. Why would he want me to write the book? But I was just being obedient. And so I'd written a book, and I had just finished it, yada, 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 yada. And when I got through saying all that, she said, well, that makes me feel really bad about myself. I'm like, why? Like, it wasn't about you, like what happened? But she's like, I haven't been going to church like I should, and I haven't been, but that was her response to what I was sharing. And I wasn't sharing it for that reason. I was answering her question and just talking about like how crazy it had been and what God had done and what he had shown me. But that was her response to it. And so that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there's like a falling away of friendships,
Yeah, those are tough.
Yes.
And to handle the conflict that goes with that, you definitely have to stay prayed up. And Jonathan hit on that the last time. But being prayed up and making sure that your thoughts and your focus aligns with him, and it's not about us.
Right.
Yes.
But it's about him.
Yeah.
And how do you fall away knowing that there's been a separation, but still somehow be the light.
Yes, and love
Christ.
them.
And
Still
love them. Yeah. And maybe
Yes.
it's not in your everyday village. Maybe it's not, but still loving them because they're a child of God.
That's right.
And so we don't have permission just to say away with you and forget you, but we do have permission and to set healthy boundaries.
Yes.
And so I think that is important, that we stay prayed up about it.
Right.
Because who is the number one person that wants us to feel defeated or upset or gain bitterness is Satan.
Yes.
And so that was in my story just a little bit ago to my friend who came to me about the conflict, is I said, don't let too much time pass and she was like, I just don't think I can right now. I was like, I wouldn't give it too much time, because Satan loves to let us breathe the bitterness and the anger, and then that brings hate, and then all of that to it. Then when we don't meet with that person, it just, we're left with anger, bitter, and who wants us to have that but Satan?
That's right.
And so I think we have to stay prayed up about it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then we have to proceed.
Be obedient. Yes.
Yeah.
Be obedient with that. So
Yeah.
we hope this has been an encouragement to you,
Yes.
and that you will handle conflict differently from now on.
I know I will.
Yes. And that you will go back and listen not only to this episode, but to the one before, and share it with your friends, not the ones you're having conflict with.
Or maybe the ones you're having conflict with. Who knows?
But just to share it with others and let them know, so that they can be encouraged, and so that they can really consider what God would have them to do in the situation that they may be in. Because we're just going to encounter conflict all throughout our life, and it's important that we know how to manage it in the right way and bring honor and glory to the Lord. So
that's right.
Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to be back with you again.